Conversating? Conversating with Pops and Ade.
Yep, conversating with Pops and Ade.
Well, I'm Peter J. Harris.
And I'm Adenike A. Harris. And this is Conversating with Pops and Ade.
Conversating with Pops and Ade.
Let's go.
Let's get started.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Conversating with Pops and Ade. If this is your first time, welcome back. I'm Adenike, and this is, who is you?
I is Peter J. Harris. Your father who taught you better grammar than that.
You're right. I like doing it because I know it bothers you sometimes. It gets on your beard a little bit. I'm just really excited.
Bad grammar right here.
Bad grammar it was at the left or the right side. It is what it is. I'm really excited today because we have another guest that is honoring us with their presence today. This individual is a friend of mine. I'm honored to know him, and I'm just really excited. His name is Amin Joseph. He is an American actor who is known as Uncle Jerome on the late John Singleton SNOWFALL on FX. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Amin also has been featured in many major films, including The Expendables and Homefront, written by Sylvester Stallone. That's, everybody know Rocky, right? So, and then also he was also in BAYWATCH. He had an amazing fight scene with Dwayne The Rock. He held his own. I give my man mad credit for that because I know that was a big deal. He is originally from Harlem, New York City. He is a Howard University alumni.
What?
Okay, Pops is highly excited. He currently lives in LA. He is a father, a husband, and just an all-around amazing guy. Amin, if you are here with us, come through and just let's get to conversating.
Let's get to conversating. What's up, Bison? Young Bison.
Young Bison in the house.
That's right.
I'm so honored to have you just join my father and I, and it's good to see your face. And I love the way technology allows us to get back together and, to see everybody. So welcome to Conversating. Welcome to our space.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, guys. Let's get to conversating.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this topic is near and dear to my heart because it really has a lot to do with my dad and even my mom, but particularly the title we chose has to do with Pop. So today's topic is Let's Groove. And I mean that in all the earth, wind, and fire sense that it makes, right? Let's groove tonight, as in that song, because that is something that is really, really relevant to my pops. Not only did I make it his ringtone when he calls me, but it is a song that he has played throughout my life. And the reason why I call it Let's Groove is because I really want to highlight and emphasize the importance of the arts in families, particularly Black families, in raising children, and not just arts as in drawing, because I know a lot of families think that arts has to do with just drawing, painting, but really like music, theater, acting, dancing, like arts encompasses everything. So today's conversation is really just about how important that is for me, for Pops. Why was it important for him as a dad? And then also, opening up to you, how did you get involved in the arts? How is this part of your essence? Because I truly believe that it is, since I know you personally. So either one of y'all beautiful Black men can start.
We could tackle this from any way
Absolutely
we want to.
Absolutely.
All right. Wow, the art, and then how it family. I guess you mentioned groove and you mentioned that with your father, something that you share. I remember my mother, she used to read novels to me when I was young, right? Miss Louise Joseph. Miss Louise used to read novels to me, and she used to read things like, what's so crazy is my mom actually read the short story The Mist to me when I was young. My favorite was It. It was like, it was so graphic.
Stephen King book?
Stephen King. She used to love Stephen King films. It's part of the reason why I love sci-fi and horror as much as I do. And I actually was cast to play, to be in a Stephen King short story, The Mist. And my mother read it. So it was one of those things where you're like, oh my, I gotta be in this. And it worked out. Great. But when you speak about art, the imagination, I think the imagination is really the playground. I think that where the different ways, the different skill sets is how we look at it and say this is a craft, this is the art. But it to me, it's birthed out of the creativity and the imagination. And whenever a parent cultivates that in the child, I think you give it's like having another language. For me, acting is the one that I felt a natural gravitation toward. And even if I probably wasn't even good when I started, good is relative, so who knows if I'm even good now. But what I do know is that I felt good. I felt good, and it was a playground where I could use my imagination and be able to connect to different portrayals of characters and just be able to escape. And so the art has a transformational property to me. And that has helped me it's been a guidepost for the different decades of my life. It's something that I could always go back to, and it keeps me whole. I don't want to keep going, but that's some of what art does. Same thing with music, same thing, like you said, with the drawing or painting. It just dancing, singing. I'm horrible, but I'm gonna sing.
That's right.
So those are the things that make you, I think that's the thing about art. And like I said, for me, it connects to my imagination a lot.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So when I forget how old your daughter, I think you have a daughter too.
Yeah.
So what stories do you read her?
Oh man, I read her everything. I read everything. She loves books. She loves books. She's loved books since she was, she was like 4 and 5 months, like holding on to the book. And I would, I would like in the morning, I would get up and we'd get in a hammock and we'd be in there and I'd roll up like a little, like a little pig in a blanket. And we would have one of her favorite books early was Serena Williams' book. It's a little, I wish I had some of my books with me. So Serena Williams' book, what's beautiful now is that there's more representation of a gamut of different culture and ethnicities, with our children's stories now. So there's one on Michelle Obama. So, I Want to Be Serena Williams is the one I used to read that. I mean, I just read that. I know the whole book, right? And then I Want to Be Like Michelle Obama. Those two were like her real favorite. Of course, she likes The Hungry Caterpillar like everyone. Matthew Cherry won an Oscar actually. For a short story, Hair Love, and also made a book, for the young kids. And oh man, that's a little special book too. So there's so many special books that accompany even some of the dolls that I get for her. Like Serena has a Quay Quay doll. It's a little doll with a little ball head. It's cute with a little tutu on. And and there's also books and stuff that accompany a lot of the dolls and play items as well. Yeah.
That makes me think when I was learning how to braid her hair.
I knew you was going to talk about it.
So she was 7 years old. So we, long story short is she came to visit after a separation. Her mom had done her hair perfectly. It was like perfect coming off she flew out here and whatnot. We better. And within 3 days, that joint was like all over the place. And I realized now I had practice. I used to take yarn and then take 3 strands before she came, and I'd be practicing. But I had never braided hair before. And bruh, when
and he
I
never
had to,
got these curls.
I had to
Curls
grapple
are
with that.
popping.
I was in there, man. I was crying. And in fact, I stopped playing music in the morning. I was so stressed because I have always dug waking up in the morning. First thing I do almost is put some music on. Mm-hmm. And finally, I had a lot of help from people, including some that I ain't asked for. Sisters would be like changing her hair at the daycare center. I'm like, you put your hair on my daughter? If I did that, you'd be sending me to the cops. Mm-hmm. But I got to say that for me, and I wonder how you feel, braiding hair, when I finally got some kind of hang on it, mm-hmm. when it didn't take 2 days to do one braid, when I finally got it together, it was the most satisfying sense of maturity, and it made me feel like a real father. I wonder how you think about that kind of stuff. And I wish you'd tell him.
I'm going to tell you something here.
I'll tell him the story, my side of the story too.
Here. Yeah, I have yet to do my daughter's hair.
Okay.
And I don't feel like a real dad still. Is something about it. Now, her mom is amazing with her hair, of course, right? And they got all type of stuff. and she seems to be tender-headed with my wife. I don't know. I haven't got in there, you know? I mean, of course I played around but I've never completed a hairstyle. I've never braided.
Okay.
I wouldn't start there. I would start with trying to comb and, try to put a little puff. I start off with some really good parts.
There you go.
But I still haven't, done a hairstyle that I could be like, yeah.
That's right. And you will.
And I realize it's a part of my ego. It's a part of my ego that I don't feel like I'm a dad yet because I don't got, the barberettes and the comb in my mouth and
that's right.
and getting it going. So I don't know. What I'm hoping is that as my daughter gets older, I can continue watching her mom do it and then sort of come in that and find a new bonding experience with that isn't based on kind of you were caught in a situation of I gotta make this work.
No question.
I'm in a situation where it's like, bruh, if you can't do it better, then what are we talking about here?
Like, I want mommy to do it. You're not doing it right, Daddy.
Mommy, auntie,
everybody.
Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, get in where you fit in, bruh. Like, you're not the first or the second or the third probably option here.
That's right.
I'm going to find my moment.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you know what? I probably, this is helping me here actually, because you know what? I'm about to start plotting again.
There you go.
Because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find a hairstyle that no one's doing.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's gonna be my thing. You feel me? That's what I think I gotta do because.
Well, let me tell you, the daddy style. So when he was doing my
daddy
hair,
style as good as we think it is, or
No. There's no BS here. I'm not gonna lie and say it was magnificent, but the pleasure, right? As a kid, I mean, it was not easy. It was very painful because I'm tender-headed. So imagine. So first of all, let's be clear. My hair was down to here. Like when I was a kid, hair was down to my shoulders and it was thick. And then my mom. We weren't into curls like how they're really tight now. My mom used to comb them out. So not only was they big, I just had a head full of hair. And so it was in cornrows when I got there, but also my hair was curly. So after about 2 days of sweating and running and them edges get out and the braids is all over the place. So Dad didn't have a choice. Like, you're not going to send your child to the summer camp with her head looking a mess. Like, that's not going to happen.
You had to figure it out, huh, Peter?
He had to make sure. He had to make sure. He felt his mother in his ear, like, you better comb that baby's hair. Like, she can't go out of here like that. But the blessing was when he found his rhythm, and I remember the moment because it was something, I think it was when he figured out like, oh, put a little water, moisturizer, and go from the bottom up to the top. And his style was literally just a part down I think it was a part over the side. I think I just had 2 at the top and 1 at the bottom, right? Like it literally was 2 flats at the side and 1 in the back. But it was his precision, his gentleness that allowed me to feel comfortable sitting on that pillow. And then also, and this is something, he threw the bottle away, but let me tell you. So there's this hair grease that the smell to this day brings me back to the moment of him doing my hair, because it is a particular pomade. It is literally called a pomade. What is it that it's like? It's green, Brooklyn. But it's from Brooklyn.
He said
and it's
got Brooklyn. He was like, I had to get my specials. He said, I had a special sauce that your mama didn't have.
That's right.
And it was like herbs, and it was like a beautiful little pomade. And then the fun part was just maybe 4 years ago.
You found it?
That's true. Found it in my medicine cabinet. I still had a little bit left from the 80s, bro.
Had a corner. Had not bought more. Let's be clear. Had not bought more. But he was savoring like, that corner that he used, and he made sure. But that is the joy, is because he not only created a rhythm between us that I still to this day remember, it also turned into part of his art, right? Like he wrote a book. I remember being in college when the anthology Tenderheaded came out. It was probably the first time I consciously remember him writing something about me. I know that you have written about me and your kids for years, but at this age, I think I was in college. And I remember when that book came out, and I remember him describing, a teddy bear that I had. And I just remember this piece of work and him writing about that moment of combing my hair and learning to comb his daughter's hair. And it brought me to tears, because it was just like, this is where art meets life. This is where life is created, through the art of just braiding hair, and how that, particularly in African-American families, it's so meaningful and intense, but it's also usually between the women. And I'm just saying, like, as a daughter, that, because it's different experiences with my mom. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember my mother braiding my hair. It's just something she did. She did it quick, easy, or she took me to someone, got my hair braided. But I remember Dad doing my hair, because it was such a novelty. Even though it was a necessity, it was still like a moment that was just ours. So I just remember that.
Definitely for men, I feel like it's a nagging thing. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like it's something that I'm not whole. You feel me?
Yeah. I do know.
And like I said, I'm very, it's ego. It definitely is ego, but it's a healthy ego to me. It's like, because it's also hampering. So for instance, if I want to just get up, boom, shoot out the house with my daughter to go to the park, it's like, but wait, you can't do everything, So it's almost part of, and that's why we got to get it together, because it's all like, she's in the stage right now where everything she wants to do herself. I can do it, Daddy. I want to do it. She'll cry and tantrum off of, I wanted to, don't pick me up to put me in the car. I wanted to get in the car.
Oh, okay.
I want to open it. It's everything. I want to do it. Right. Well, I want to do your hair. You know what I mean? I got that same connection. Like, I want to do that, because when I can do it and when I'm proficient at that, then we are whole, and then we can really, I don't need nobody. It's like taking that latchkey, making me a latchkey kid. It's me and you, baby girl. We out. But right now, we're still sort of tethered to the home or someone that can facilitate that for us. You know what I mean?
Well, it's fun, because these kind of things, I've often said, they sort of build up your own personal connections and mythologies. So I can actually now say, one, I learned how to do this thing. I literally figured out how much oil to use, how to part, when it was time to admit I didn't know how to cornrow. I still don't know how to cornrow because you got to go up. It's like arthritis inducement to me. But I tell you, now I can tell big stories about when I used to do that. I can talk about this trip we took down to Florida. And I could talk about that time I took her to the daycare. Somebody changed my stuff. Then I went back and fixed it. I fixed it because I ain't like what they did. Because I said to the women, I say, well, if a dude at the daycare center had changed your daughter's hair without asking you, you would be really pissed. Because I started, like you said, I started feeling sort of the artistic connection between the history. Because braiding is a beautiful history. It's a beautiful part of the history. I mean, I grew up with Cicely Tyson, used to do her hair, woo, swap, whip. We used to see those pictures, and we took a lot of pride in all of that. I mean, I've been to Africa, and I've seen people braid on the continent. But I think for me, it's connected, and I wonder, Amin, how you feel about this. It's connected to my desire as the dad to want to celebrate, like you said, imagination. I imagined that I could do this. It was a necessity, no question about it. But I said, I'm not going to let this defeat me because this is my kid. And like you said, I can't be a man if I can't imagine myself taking care of my kid, including doing her hair like this.
Everything you should be able to do. I think just the autonomy that we look for just to be, individuals, period, on this planet, that's the individuality that we're, I can have autonomy. I can do what I need to do. And when you have this extension of yourself, especially with the dog, because the little boy, it would be easy. I can, I line myself up. That's easy. His haircuts is easy. But a little girl, that's a little intimidating. And what you mentioned some things, because there's also these things that you kind of know you have. It's these hidden talents. Like, I think, like I said, I'm going to figure out my one style because I think I'm going to be good at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's something in you. There's something in you that's saying, hey, listen, once I get this, I get the tender-headed part. I think I'm going to have a great touch with that. I think I'm going to be able to laugh and joke and get us through the hard parts. And like you said, that's a bond. And that's a bond because she be screaming in there sometimes. And that's another thing. It doesn't feel fair also to her mother that she is almost, because anything that you have to do because there's no one else able to do it can sometimes rob the joy. Like you said, your mom didn't have because it felt like a task. It felt like something that I'm the only person that can do this. You get and that's a lot of times why you end up with the same kind of two styles and whatnot, because there's no imagination and creativity in it because it feels almost like a chore. So I think that would also give a little bit, I think it would take a big burden off of like, okay, it's, I think it even step mom's game up because it's like, okay, I don't have to do it all the time. So now when I do it, it's not like, it's not like cooking out of necessity and, cooking for the thrill of the culinary.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the thing that's got me now thinking, this whole idea of groove and creativity and arts and whatnot, as I said, for me, the hair was absolutely a part of wanting to be able to think big with Adenike. I used to like to take her, once we got our rhythm again, I like to take the kids to plays and poetry readings and music concerts, just so they could feel the fullness. And I didn't want to impose. I'm kind of a jazz head now, especially as I've gotten older. Certainly with an R&B core. You know what I mean? If he was buying me off the ice cream truck, the R&B be in the middle of the popsicle, and then the jazz would be on the outside.
Okay.
But I wonder too, as you know, your daughter gets older, how do you want to expose her to the arts, to creativity, to how do you want to help her tap her own imagination as well?
Great question. Because I often think about this, because, you know, we're all observant. She's probably way more observant than I am, just because of the vivacious way in which they learn at this age. But I'm pretty observant too. And I think all I have right now, right, is that as long as I'm able to swallow my ego, as long as I'm able, because I am what I am, right? You're gonna see what I am. She's picking up way more from what I'm doing than what I'm saying, right? What I'm saying, she's pretty much got that beat already. I tell her to do something, it's done, or she's not doing it. She doesn't care. It's not even. But I see how much she imitates. I see how much she's learning through watching, right? And therefore, if I can not the old school of do what I say, but if I can be an example, you know, if I can just live my appreciation for art, doesn't need to be on display. We joke sometimes because, you know, when grandparents come around, usually grandparents are, you know, it's kind of like, let's do this thing. Yeah. You know, let's do this thing that's going to make a moment, a picture, you know, I introduced, you know, granddaughter, grandchild to the museum, to, you know, to artifacts and to culture in that way, you know, whereas with me, it's really how I bop my head to what I love. You know?
Yeah.
Your love and appreciation for music in the morning, automatically, it is already infused in her. It wasn't, well, let me play an eclectic amount of music to make her palate. No, you just had an eclectic, you know what I mean? Because I think when you force it, it becomes, children can tell, oh, wow, this is a teaching moment. But if I'm really enjoying some Coltrane, I'm just really enjoying spiritual Coltrane. I'm going to throw it in, and then you know, she's going to go, Daddy, what's that? Music, I like that. You know what I mean? And now you've made a connection. Oh, now it's kind of like, oh, we're gonna put on our jazz. You know, but
I mean, that's literally
jazz,
it.
If you're going, this is jazz, and this is what it is. That's not jazz. This is jazz. Oh boy, here we go. A whole bunch of rules and
wow, nice,
parameters.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly, I mean, how it is. The infusion, that word that you use, is literally what happened, because on both sides. So my mother is a portrait artist and a painter. And growing up in her house, part of our daily activities were to just paint. They would literally be days where she's like, what do you want to do today? And I'm like, I want to paint with you, because I knew that's what she loved to do. So I would paint. Now, I can't paint a face to save my life. She would say anybody can paint, but I'm gonna tell you, that woman can paint an eyeball with the irises and the details. For me, what I really just loved was just the colors, right? To be able to, you know, starting with finger paint and then digging into watercolors and just letting the creativity go. And she never created those rules. She never told me color in the lines. Like, she was literally the parent that was, oh, look, that's fantastic. And it could have been 3 pages left, and the picture in the coloring book was never even touched, you know. And that's infusion of her passion for the arts is the same thing with Dad, because I don't think I realized it then, with growing up in the house, how you always turn on music. But as I've gotten older, then we've shared a home together, and then when you've come over, It's the funniest thing to me now because I do recognize you get up, you have your routine, and it's always like you getting on YouTube, you turn on your music, and then you're in the house dancing. But the interesting piece, I don't think I've ever told you this, Dad, that is now my morning routine. Like I
Whoa, no.
turn on music depending on the mood that I want to set for my day.
That's
it could be a sound bath, you know, it might be a little meditative in the morning depending on how early I wake up. But sometimes I literally turn on some 70s R&B jams and I'm in the house listening like Pops is here. Like this is it. So it really is that beautiful infusion of you just living authentically in love with the arts. I mean, you taking me to plays, it was always an ask. It was never a you gonna come, right? Like it was never a mandatory thing. It was always like, oh, I got tickets for this play. Do you wanna come? And even as a teen, right, which is the rough years, but it was, I knew I was in LA to spend time with you, so I went. And then I also remember when I was 12, you put me in the Crossroads School. What was the name of that school?
Crossroads Academy.
It was called Crossroads Academy, and I think it was in Leimert Park.
That's right.
It was in Leimert Park. And I remember, because I think Wendy Raquel Robinson, Wendy Raquel was my dance teacher.
Yes, she was. That's right.
And I wasn't, so they were putting on like every summer at the end, there was a full-fledged like production. But I unfortunately always had to go back to Maryland before I could do the production. So I was just in classes to be in classes. And I remember I learned how to do the Roger Rabbit. Wendy was like showing us how to do the Roger Rabbit. So I would always go back to Maryland.
HU.
That's right. She could dance too, boy.
Yeah, she could. Absolutely. And I always remembered going back and not feeling the satisfaction of really having that completion from that summer camp.
Right.
But always still having the satisfaction of being involved in the arts. And I think also, I mean, Amin, and you know this, like when I got to LA, it's like, I was never there for arts, acting or anything, but it's like, that's who I gravitated towards. Like every person that I ended up meeting were just people who were involved in the arts because it exuded from me. Because of Pops, because of Mom, and because I'm also a creative. I'm just creative differently, right? Like that's the power of what art can do for you, is that it does allow you to be creative, and its creativity and imagination is just so vast. It doesn't have limits. I think that's the beauty of it for me, is really recognizing the beauty of imagination and the expansiveness of it. So
I love what you said too, man. It's just a bop of my head, you know, to something. And then, because that body language that you're sharing with your beloved child, you know, we don't really know the impact that stuff will have for years, but it makes sense and it's smart to be the best bopper we can be while they're young. Because now that she's still youthful in spirit, but chronologically, Ada's a grown woman. So we've literally produced plays together. So that's how that's gone. You know what I mean? So it's funny because when she told me once, we were all at a poetry thing I was part of, and this woman said something about me, sort of like accusatorily, like she was basically lying on me or something. But she was using the mic. She was like, well, I wish blah, 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 Peter Harris, blah, blah, blah. So at the end, I called her aside and I said, wait a minute. I didn't think that was fair that you had the mic and you was sort of bussing me when blah, blah, blah. So now when she messes with me, she sees how I bopped up to Homegirl. What do you say? Let me holler at you.
Pops is Bop. I'm gonna tell you this now. If he ever says this to you, understand that you're about to get a conversation. And it's not gonna be like brother to brother. It's gonna be like, let me holler at you. Pops would go, he'd be like, let me holler at you for a minute. Like that's literally how he came, like this came to this book. Like, let me holler at you for a minute. Like, come on over. And that to me is straight DC. It's
to go to the watershed.
Right, like, let me holler at you. Yeah, come here. Let me holler at you.
Pull your tail feather real quick.
So, you know, that makes me ask you too, brother. I mean, as you think of yourself as a parent now, what what do you think your daughter sees when, I mean, not when you're on camera or anything, but as you move through your day with her, what does she see? If she was able to tell some other 2 or 3-year-old, 4-year-old, whatever your daughter's age is, what would she be saying about the way you bop through your day? How does daddy bop for your daughter?
I don't know. I ask her sometime. I'll be like, what is, I'll ask her about her friends, and I'll say, who's silly, right? And she'll say, whatever, one of her, Ellie's silly. And I'm like, is Daddy silly? Just to see where, and she's like, Daddy's silly. Yeah. And that lets me know, for the first thing is that, like I said, I don't know. I've always felt like I love to connect to people, right? Young, old, and anything in between. I really love to connect to people. Part of the reason, going back to this craft, this art, is that I've used it to connect to people. It ain't really about the roles. I love doing it, but I love doing it in a place I haven't done it before. You know what I mean? I love with people I haven't, had a chance to share the experience with. I just had a meeting right before our call, and that's, what do you want to do? Like, I don't care. I just want to do it with people that are, that are inspired and want to create. I want to be a part of an ensemble, because that's how I learn the world, So I just really care. That's like, and I realize that parenting can become such a chore when you're result oriented about that my child needs to be like this, or even as a disciplinarian, when I say don't do this, it's such a concrete thing that I realize that, although that works for the outside world of looking and saying, hey, look, this brother looked like he's built like this and he got boundaries, that just doesn't work as well with the people that you love, that you're close to. And truthfully, you should be using that energy to reflect to the outside. So perhaps this gift of this young person coming around is to say, Amin, you were using that tool, but you don't need that tool in a toolbox anymore. That hard exterior, that the man inside is the one that's, perhaps you can let the whole thing go, because that's what I'm doing at a park when I'm going down the slide with my big ass, just like her. That's what I'm doing when I'm acting like the ice cream. She loves to cook. That's her thing, right? Got her little kitchen. She loves to cook. She'll cook you anything. But as you know, anything is everything, right? So this can be whatever she likes, mac and cheese or ice cream, or this could be a lollipop. And daddy has to use this and treat it like a lollipop. And sometimes she wants to see that she ate it and swallowed it, And I think that type of leaning into that for a creative, for a person that loves their imagination, I think you can see how much I recognize that to be a gift. That's a gift for me to be able to see things perhaps how I used to see it, or perhaps how I've never seen it. Yeah. It's a gift that she sees it in this way. And I don't want to be so much of a result oriented of how her life should be or how she should see it. I think if I'm, and like I said, that's where I am right now. I realize that things ebb and evolve and flow, and, but if I can just show her through my actions rather than, through discipline, and as long as daddy is silly, because I'm going to have to be more of an authoritarian sometimes, if it comes to, you're about to run out in the middle of that street, I'm gonna yell at you in a way that's gonna let you know to But what comes right after that?
That's right.
Oh my God, right?
Come on, bro.
Oh my God. It's not
wisdom. That's wisdom right there.
It's to be able to say, all right, Let me, you know, because the lesson isn't to be afraid of me.
Yeah.
Yes.
The lesson isn't that daddy is just strong or daddy, because now, yes, I'm big and strong, but I remember with my parents when I got at the place where I could see the frailty and that when it came to just strength and even intellect in some ways, because you've learned them. So of course, you know, the you know, the ways to get under, not that you're smarter than them at all. But even in, you know, now where my parents are elders and I look at a certain vulnerability that they have.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that even when I'm at that vulnerable state, which I am now, even that she can look at me and know that she never defined me by just a physical strength, just a hard hand, just that wasn't what it was. So we could still communicate with each other with the same, you know, silliness, the same fun, the same joy, the same still looking to learn and evolve. That would be much more important to me. And then if I can do that with her, then I should be doing that with everybody, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know how deep this is, man. We're I guess we're a generation apart or so. And yet I'm seriously telling you, man, that this is just the real life. It's day to day. You know, it ebbs and flows, like you said. You know, the three of us, it's so fun to look at these images right now. You know, when I look at Ade now in based on what we're talking about, she is where your daughter is going.
That's all I need.
You know what I mean?
That's all I need.
Because so really, I forget, how old is your daughter now, Amy?
She's 3.
So she's 3. So I can literally tell you that I remember her at 3 and 4. And I now am looking at her. Sometimes I still see that little child in her, or we laugh and find that core.
Especially if I make a certain face, he flashes back.
Yeah, she got that little forehead thing, man. See, that's why she got her hair covered, because she got that little forehead.
Swoop.
But I wanted to just say, it gave me a chill hearing you talk about what you just particularly said. And it's right. You're right. It's a gift. And if more brothers in particular, but more fathers don't really see parenting as a gift, as a sculpting tool almost.
It's a new lease on life.
It's a new, man.
It gives you a great new perspective.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it's giving me. I really, you know, when you know, you're like, oh, like, I ain't gonna say nothing, but wow, I'm learning a lot here.
There you go.
I'm learning a lot about myself through someone else.
Wow.
It's, you know, it's a new lease on life. It's a new love. It's a new expansion. You know, it's new fears. Life ain't cool with the same old fears. What about the fear of that this person, you know, am I doing this right? And what about the fear of these days, she can become upset and, you know, her temperament, because it's still molding. But what about, you know, there had to be a time when Adenike got angry that it like, oh no, she's holding on to that. Like, that's something I can't just wipe away with daddy.
Yes.
Sweets ain't working, bribes ain't working. Tell you I love you from the real core of who I am. Like, I'm gonna have to respect her to see that she's gonna have to get over it with her process of how, you know, I see those things coming. How do I prepare for those things? Are those things that you can even prepare for? Perhaps you just gotta live with the best intention you can, and hopefully, like you said, the time of putting the foundation there, that someone realizes, because I see a lot of parents have horrible relationships, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
with their children.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those I see guys or women my age that have horrible relationships with their parents,
Mm-hmm.
unforgiving,
Mm.
Yeah.
listless. No, there's no. They're just family by just by title, you
Yeah.
know. Um, yeah, and then I see inspired relationships like the
Yeah.
one that you have with your daughter. I see invigorating,
Mm.
powerful, transformative relationships. So
Yeah.
if I could choose, it's life is
Yeah.
choices, right? So if I could choose, I'm gonna go that way. I'm gonna go with the
Yeah.
more inspired, the more that I could
Mm.
learn, that I'm not gonna be
Mm.
an authoritarian, even though I may have to put some stuff in line early to
Mm-hmm.
shape, but I don't want to be so heavy-handed with that, so that I could have I just want to be. I really want to just be fascinated by the person. I know, but like this, I
Mm-hmm.
know sometime when your daughter talks to you, you just sit back and just go,
Every day, bro.
like, like the ego in you might be like, yo, I gave her that, gave her that.
Yeah.
But once you let it all go, you're just like,
Yeah.
hey, yo,
Yeah.
wow. That's all that's it. That's all. That's the gift. That's all. To
That's right.
be
I
want to have
receive.
wonder,
I
to want
receive.
to be like in wonder and awe
Yeah.
of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And you see that when they come out,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
just don't muck it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
So
also the
I'll be looking.
beauty.
I'll continue to be looking for
Yeah.
advice and counsel and wisdom.
I feel
As we
like
are.
as the daughter in this, listening
Mm.
to you two, first of all, I feel like this is a praise song to Black
Yeah.
fatherhood. And I just
Mm.
really want to acknowledge that both of you are beautiful representations of the work, right? Like dad, almost 50 years in the game of parenting, even though you didn't necessarily like raise Ayana from birth, but still
Mm-hmm.
40 some odd years you've been a father. And then
Mm-hmm.
watching Amin and listening to you, you're 3 years into this fatherhood journey, this lifelong purposeful journey. And I'm recognizing as a woman, 41, and also I am noticing things in myself that I can attribute directly to Pops. And it's actually an awe-inspiring thing for myself as well, right? Like Pops may be sitting back sometimes and looking like, man, she's awe-inspiring. But then I get moments where I'm like, wow, I learned that lesson from something he did. And it may have been something subconsciously placed in the back of my mind from when I was 5 and didn't even realize it. And so
I
I'm
call them time
loving,
capsules.
yeah, it's like you're
Because you can
dropping
try
them.
to, it's almost like you said with that bop, you can try to take someone, to the Getty.
Mm-hmm.
You can show them the Getty when they were 7 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and they forget that they were even there.
Mm-hmm.
There's places you've taken out of Nike that she doesn't even remember.
Mm-hmm.
You have to bring it up and go, oh, this thing, and then oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
It's just
One of those things, those time capsules, and this is something that it's a little funny, but Dad, you know how every time we go into like a health food store, especially ones now, it's very trendy, right? But in the 80s, it wasn't trendy to go to the health food store. It wasn't trendy to have the
the
big
green
bag
juice
of
was not
the
in.
green. It wasn't in back, but Dad been a vegetarian my whole life. So when I'm with him, I know we eating at the apothecary. We going to the bulk food section, right? Like this was my childhood. So I used to hate it. Like we used to go, and there was the store. It's in Culver City. I don't know if remember, Dad, we had to find it. I could not remember the name of the store, but I visually saw the whole layout of it from
Wow.
when I would come to visit him from being like 11, and we would go there. The day that I still don't know the name of it, but I know where it is. Like I've been in it as an adult. And I remember walking into that store, and like you said, that time capsule opened up. I walked into that store, the smell hit me, and it was this beautiful, like, I was like, oh, I was like, Dad, first of all, it smells like your house, because your house smells like an apothecary to me. It's got incense, it's oils, it's health food store. But then walking down the aisle, I saw this. I said, oh, I know where the soap is that you want, right? Like, and I could see it. And so and then now, it's not because it's trendy, but now I recognize like that's actually where I have veered towards, right? Like I go into those stores, I look for those stores, and wherever I live, I find myself bringing that into, my life. I still don't eat bagged cereal, puffed wheat. We don't do that. That was a traumatic experience, eating cereal, puffed wheat cereal in that big bulk food bag. But nonetheless, it's nasty stuff. But those are like you said, the time capsules. So I really just want to recognize, it's a beautiful thing as a woman, as well as a daughter, to hear you two Black men representing and talking about the necessities of vulnerability in parenting, the necessities of not having rigidity in your parenting styles, right? Recognizing, like you said, I mean, I'm telling you, Amin, this is about to be it. We're about to talk about the bop of parenthood, right? Like that rhythm that we create.
Bro.
I think it's a beautiful turn of phrase. So, but I just, I know that we've been here talking for a long time, and we could probably sit here and keep talking for another 4 or 5 hours. This could be a part 2, 3, because we could go more into parenthood. We can go into masculinity. Like, I feel like this would be a beautiful trio to talk even just about the intricacies of manhood and how that evolves from certain areas. But I just want to say thank you for being a guest with us. The praise song to manhood, the praise song to fatherhood. And, Dad, of course, always, thanks for being Pops. The work that we have put in to be who we are is what I'm always making sure people know. Like, this wasn't just birth and then me and Dad been bopping, right? Like we put in this work.
He put the time in, and
he put the time in. I put the time in. I also asked, like, when, especially because everyone who knows my story, it wasn't roses all the time, and we had to work through that trauma. We had to dig into cleaning out that trauma. I had to ask tough questions. He had to answer those questions, and then we started from a foundation that was so solid, that have created what everyone sees now and what you experienced when you met me. So again, I thank you for the praise when you talk about our relationship, and that's something that you look at. But I also say, just keep doing the work and keep and keep doing what you've been doing. And I just, I already knew you was going to be a good-hearted, vulnerable, father. I already knew that was going to be it. And I'm just, so that's my closeout. If y'all have some final thoughts, I would love to offer you guys, the floor. But I just say thank you.
All good. Thank you guys for having me. I think the world of you two, individually, but together, that's a mean combo.
That's right.
That's a mean combo.
1, 2, baby. Yeah. Thank you, brother. Really enjoyed to talk to you more like this, and looking forward to seeing you on stage and elsewhere. But in the meantime, keep on bopping for that beautiful daughter of yours, man. Keep on bopping.
Always. Thank you, guys.
Thank you man. So much.
Be well.
You've been listening to Conversating with Pops and Ade. We're your hosts, Peter Harris.
And I'm Adenike Harris. Please, wherever you're listening to this podcast, subscribe, share with your friends, and give us feedback. Also, don't forget to follow us at our Instagram page at PopsnAde, PopsnAde. Facebook, we are Peter and Adenike Harris. And you can also find us on YouTube, where you can see other videos of work that we have done, including our TED Talk entitled Healing versus Retaliation. Thanks again, and come back soon.